My choker is finished and I've pinned it out and starched it and let it dry 2 times. I like 2 layers of starch. I think it gives it the right density for wearing as a necklace. And now I'm going to unpin it and then attach the magnetic clasp. I'll pull it apart and attach these holes to either side of the strip of crochet, and then when they wrap around your neck, they'll come together and close as a choker necklace. Okay, now you have a couple of choices for how to attach your clasp to the necklace. And normally when we're crocheting with yarn or knitting with yarn, we use a yarn needle. And I'll show you what one of those look like. Okay, here's just your regular average yarn needle. It has a wide enough eye at the top that you can easily fit the yarn in, and it's slightly sharp. This one's a bit more blunt. Some of them are sharper. I'll show you one that's sharp in comparison. You can see this also has a wide eye, but this one's sharper. So depending on what kind of yarn and what kind of stitch and what's going to be easier for weaving in ends, you may want sharp or blunt. But you always need that wide eye in order to get the yarn into the needle. Unfortunately, both of these are too wide. They're fine at the tip, but they're too wide for the eye to get through the holes on the clasp. I'll show you on this one too. It's okay at the tip, but on the side with the hole for the eye, it won't fit through. So now we're back to square one and we can't figure out how to get it attached. So 2 other options would be a really fine needle that has a teeny tiny hole at the top. Can you see that? Which will be kind of difficult for getting the yarn through, but it will fit through the hole on the clasp. So that's an option, as long as you can get your yarn through there. And this yarn's fairly fine, so with a little bit of patience, see, I got it through. So with a little bit of patience, you will be able to get the yarn through for this particular yarn anyway, and use a needle. Otherwise, you could go with a beading needle, like a wide eye needle, like this one, which is plenty wide enough for getting your yarn through, and then it's also fine enough for getting through the hole on the clasp. And then the one other option that I like a lot when I'm doing yarn and clasps is using a really tiny crochet hook. This is a 1mm steel head crochet hook, and see how tiny the head is? Look, if you do a slip stitch from the work of your yarn and pull the yarn through here with a slip stitch, this is really easy for getting through. So depending on which way works for you, what kind of tools you have, or what you're more comfortable with, you can attach your clasp in any of these 3 ways. And what you want to do is make sure, I'm going to show you how this clasp works. It has a male and female portion on each end, right? Now, if you attach them this way with male, male, female, female, see how it won't line up beautifully, and your clasp will look silly when you're finished. And this is an easy mistake to make, because as you're attaching this one on this side, you see, okay, male on top, female on bottom. I'll do the same thing over here, and guess what? When you pull them back together, it'll be male, male on top, and we don't want that for this particular type of project. So we're going to make sure that whatever side is up, male or female, you want to make sure it's the opposite on the opposite end. And trust me, I've made this mistake multiple times, and actually I've done it in wire, which is even worse, because it's much harder to unravel slip stitches or even sewn stitches in wire. Unraveling's difficult, more difficult with wire than it is with yarn. Make sure that you make that they're opposite when you're sewing them on. Okay? I'm going to sew the clasp on one end and crochet it on the other, just so you can see both techniques. And we're going to start by lining up the one side of the clasp, and I'm using the tail yarn just to save one end from, oh crap, look at that. Oh, on the second try, not too bad. I mean, that one's really tiny. Please give yourself a lot of patience and understanding when you're doing this. It's not easy to get yarn into a teeny tiny hole like that. Okay, so we're just going to sew the clasp onto the end of our necklace and tie knots as we go. I'm going to do 2 knots per clasp hole. This is really easy to do. Okay, we've done 2 knots in 2 of the holes. We'll move along now to the 3rd hole, and we'll do 2 knots in this one. And on to the 4th one. And do 2 knots in this one. Super easy, nice and quick. We'll weave in our loose end. And that side is finished. Okay, we'll cut that tail. And now we'll do the other side with the crochet hook and some new yarn. Okay, so just for reference, when we're looking at it in this direction, male is down, female is up. So we want to make sure we come over here that male is up and female is down. I'm just referring to the little knob being male and the hole being female. So the knob is up on this side. Okay, so we're going back to our original yarn, and by the way, this is also Be So Fine yarn, just like in the first section. This is Be So Fine yarn in colorway Tropical Hot Coral, and we're going to tie the yarn onto our crochet hook. And this time we're going to use that super tiny 1mm steel head crochet hook, because the head is so fine that it will easily make its way through the closure. And the head is so fine that it'll easily fit through the holes on the magnetic closure like that. Okay, so we're going to go back to our piece now. Remember, we want the prong to be up. So we'll now turn it this way, so that means left. Want to line it up like that. So we're going to start with a slip stitch right about here on our necklace. Okay. And then we'll slip stitch into the next stitch. I almost did it again. Onto the next stitch on our necklace and the hole on the magnetic clasp, and you're going to slip stitch through both. So yarn over, pull through the magnetic clasp, and then pull through the stitch and the loop already on your hook, just like that. So we'll go into the next stitch now, slip stitch into the next hole on the clasp, yarn over, pull through the hole on the clasp, the stitch on the necklace, and the loop on your hook, like that. We'll go into the next stitch on the necklace, into the next hole on the clasp, yarn over, pull through the hole on the clasp, pull through the stitch on the necklace, and I like to slide the yarn, both loops, up on the shank of the crochet hook to give me a little more space to work with. It really helps for getting that slip stitch pulled through because it gets a little bit tight. So sliding it up that shaft, see how it gets wider up here? It really helps you to give yourself a little more ease. So insert in the next stitch on the necklace, the next hole on the clasp, which is the final one, yarn over, pull through the clasp, pull through the necklace, slide up on your hook to give yourself a little room, and pull through the loop on your crochet hook. We're now ready to break the yarn. Can't find my scissors, so I'll just pop it and fasten off. And there you have it. You've got your clasp joined with slip stitch crochet on this side and with a very fine beading needle on this side. And we're going to line them up. Ta-da! Done. Our crochet lace choker is finished and ready to be worn or ready to give as a beautiful gift.